Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised. Everyone makes mistakes, but some people are dumb enough to make them on camera. A first-time skydiver deploys his parachute. Too bad it's not attached. This musclehead learns the hard way that pumping iron can be a real headache. A dim-witted gator wrestler sticks his nose where it doesn't belong. An absent-minded Navy man forgets to duck. And he's sucked into the engine of a jet plane. And a careless elephant keeper gets a little behind in his work. If it's off the wall and it's on tape, then it's all here. It's totally outrageous behavior.
Stan and Diane Fraser's Ursa, Illinois farm is the picturesque embodiment of the American dream. Except for one oversized eyesore, a rundown cement block silo. So for his wife Diane's birthday, Stan decides to demolish the massive structure. But instead of hiring a professional, he decides this crop of geniuses can easily get the job done. Stan ties a chain to the silo and tries to pull it down. But so far, the only thing destroyed is his confidence. So Stan decides to knock it over by driving his tractor into the concrete structure. A simple push should finish off the job. But no. Looks like it may have finished off Stan instead. The silo falls the wrong way, bombarding him with bricks and cement. Diane runs to his side. But thanks to Stan's thick skull, he's just fine.
Yeah, I had mortar in my pockets and concrete in my pockets, and part of bricks was in my pockets, and how it ever got there, I don't know.
It is puzzling. A family gathers to celebrate Dad's new raise, but he's sitting a little too close to the fireplace. And now that paycheck is burning a hole in his pocket. Luckily, he finds a seat in a nearby bathtub that's more to his liking. This working stiff has always been a good provider for his family. But he never thought he'd have money to burn. When Mark Vaughn locked himself out of the house, he got stuck trying to shimmy down the chimney. Luckily, the fire department arrived in the nick of time. After hours of hitting the bricks, rescue workers finally free the trapped man. How did Mark's foolproof plan go so wrong?
I'm kind of pudgy when I got down there, and the opening looked like I would be able to get through it. And next thing I know, stuck like Chuck.
But incredibly, the tight squeeze resulted in a rare moment of clarity.
I was all the way down to the bottom. Then I realized.
What could his mind-blowing revelation possibly have been?
I'm stupid.
No. And what else did Mark learn on his little adventure?
Listen to your mother-in-law. Don't climb down chimneys. And probably that I need to lose weight.
And maybe carrying a spare key isn't a bad idea either. 15-year-old Randy Lyon sets up his video camera and prepares to perform a stunt on his new ATV. He wants to show the girls at school how tough he really is. But it turns out Randy's got a sensitive side, too. Thankfully, Randy has no broken bones, no sprains. In fact, hardly even a scratch. The only thing hurt is his pride.
I thought it was kind of embarrassing, but I don't know, anybody else would have cried too, so even though I wasn't really crying.
Eventually, Randy pulls himself together. But when his mother sees the tape, she lays down the law.
The rule is no riding without someone with you, and now we really enforce that rule.
Well, someone ought to tell Randy, because there he goes. Although he disobeys his parents, the young daredevil has learned a valuable lesson from the experience. If he wants girls to flip over him, he's going to have to toughen up. This bodybuilder is trying to get all pumped up. But when the tough guy in tights develops a weight problem, he's headed for trouble. Looks like Hercules here can't perform under pressure. Hopefully for him, there's a first aid kit in this cabinet. Because his workout didn't work out.
Coming up, when totally outrageous behavior continues. A foolhardy farmer gets caught with his pants down. Plus, when a first-time skydiver hits the wrong cord, he doesn't deploy his chute, he loses it. A drunk skateboarder's first move is a knockout. And later, a reptile wrangler gets too close to a crocodile smile. When totally outrageous behavior returns.
First-time skydiver Scott Lutz leaps from the plane in perfect form. If he's scared, he doesn't show it, because he wants to look good for the camera. But the amateur daredevil is so focused on his close-up that he doesn't pay attention when the instructors remind him how to open his chute. So when the moment of truth arrives, he pulls the wrong cord, releasing his entire pack. And now he's spinning out of control. Luckily, the absent-minded student remembers one lesson: how to deploy his reserve chute. So, with his terrifying experience behind him, Scott floats safely down to Earth. Thankful he lived through the worst experience of his life. Okay, second worst. Unfortunately, his mid-air blunder set him way off course and into a 10,000-volt power line. Scott survived the electrifying ordeal, but hopefully next time he takes the plunge, he won't pull something like this. Some people will do anything to lose weight. Anything except diet. Like this woman. She puts on a cheap weight loss belt and plugs in. Looks like she got her wires crossed. She breaks the circuit, but the gut-wrenching girdle continues to emit a charge. Her little brother must be used to her stupid behavior, because this light show doesn't even spark his interest. Maybe next time, instead of electrical power, she'll try willpower. For a high-profile magazine ad, a foolish photographer decided it would be a good idea to wax the woman instead of the car. But now she's losing her grip.
Can you hold still for a minute? Great, that's great.
The cameraman can't hide his frustration.
No, stay there, don't move. Stay there, stay there, stay there.
Maybe he should just let it slide. The human hood ornament tries to hold on, but it's no use.
Yeah, I think we'll call it a wrap, and I think maybe we shouldn't oil you down next time.
That's the last time this photographer will ever shoot a slick ad like this. When a foolish rancher tries to relieve himself in an empty field, he runs into a frisky donkey. The lovesick creature lunges at the bare butt beauty, who desperately tries to fend off its advances. Seems this critter's feeling romantic. The farmer tries to escape, but the donkey won't give up. You'd think the farmer would understand its need to sow its wild oats. Finally, the sexy beast makes its move and gets the man right where it wants him. No need to saddle up. This burro rides bareback. This country boy learned the hard way that when it comes to love, a stubborn donkey can make an ass out of you.
Hey, buddy.
Meet Bobby Black.
Bobby Black. I'm just from West Virginia, and we'd like to have you guys up there.
This hick wants to hang 10 to impress his friends.
Heck, I'd like to try that, but they won't let me have a skateboard.
That's because sidewalk surfing is dangerous if you're drunk.
All right, guy in the blue right there.
Eventually, the skateboarders give in.
All I'd like to say is, I'd love to use it.
We can do it. Let's do it. Come on. Woo! Yeah! Get up there. You the man. Jump up.
But Bobby needs a little coaxing.
Yeah! Come on! Bobby Black!
Finally, he gathers the nerve.
Do it!
But who's going to gather his teeth? For once in his life, Bobby used his head. Too bad it was to break his fall.
He knows how to crash a party.
A couple of skaters remove Sleeping Beauty from the ramp.
Get him up, dog.
And try to remember their CPR.
No, turn him over on his side.
Eventually, Bobby recovers
All right, what's going on there?
and asks for his medicine.
What's up with that, man?
But before someone passes him a bottle, he passes out again. Seems this redneck's quest for fame became his moment of shame.
Up next, when totally outrageous behavior continues. An absent-minded sailor is swept off his feet by a revved-up jet engine. Plus, this man might wear the pants in his family, but his new bride wears the teeth. And later, a zoned-out zookeeper wonders, who turned out the lights? When totally outrageous behavior returns.
Here's former naval officer J.D. Bridges walking through his hometown airport. But it's amazing he'd get anywhere near an airplane, considering what happened to him just a few short years ago. J.D. and his team were working on the deck of the USS Theodore Roosevelt.
I was training new recruits to take my job, launching the aircraft off the catapult.
But when J.D. approaches the engine, he forgets the first rule of working on an aircraft carrier. Duck. In a flash, J.D. is sucked into the revved-up engine.
It was a mental error on my part. When I got sucked into the intake, it sucked off my helmet, my gloves, my coat, which shot out a fireball out the back. The topside petty officer seen it and told the pilot to shut the plane down, and within a minute, I crawled back out and then I blacked out.
J.D. is incredibly lucky and suffers only minor scrapes and bruises.
My helmet went through the intake, which pretty well, I think, saved my life. Most people that have been sucked into an engine, I think, got turned into chopped liver.
Today, J.D. makes it a point to stay out of aircraft engines. An important life lesson that he intends to pass on to his son, Blade.
Named him Blade for the simple fact his father almost got chopped up by the blades in the intake, and it just kind of fit him.
A young couple prepares to exchange wedding vows. This is the happiest day of their lives, a memory that they will cherish forever. They take sweet sips from a golden chalice. But the bride seems upset by something in the wine. Her front teeth. She remembered something old, something new, and something blue. Maybe she should have borrowed some denture glue. Now the groom really needs a drink. The bride prays that there is no tape in the camera as the minister concludes, "Speak now or forever hold your teeth." Florida's Miccosukee Indian Village is famous for one thing: alligator wrestling. And around here, that's no crock. This angry reptile is over 12 feet long, but has a brain the size of a peanut, just like gator wrestler Kenny Cypress.
Back.
Kenny gets down and dirty with these man-eaters 3 times a day. But during this performance, the reckless wrestler decides to try something new by sticking his head inside the gator's mouth. Big mistake. Looks like this critter's got a crush on Kenny. Kenny struggles to get free while rescuers rush in to help.
Get the wood! Get the wood!
But he may need the jaws of life to escape the gator's grip. Eventually, they pry Kenny loose. It seems the lizard keeper forgot wrestler rule number 1. Wipe both sides of your face, because if a single drop of sweat hits a gator's tongue, it triggers its powerful jaws. And what was going through the reptile wrangler's head, aside from razor-sharp teeth?
Inside the gator's mouth smelled like rotten chicken.
Funny, the gator thought Kenny tasted like chicken.
I'm glad I couldn't move my mouth, because everybody would heard me screaming like a woman.
Amazingly, Kenny didn't say, "See you later, alligator." The next day, he's back at work and back in the saddle. But this clueless cowboy had better be careful, or the next time he gets chewed out at work, it might not be a laughing matter. Welcome to the television show Potluck, Australia's answer to Star Search.
I'm looking for action, physical attraction.
Perhaps what she should be looking for is a new career. Today on Potluck, we're in luck.
Act 1, 7. 27.
Dancer Todd Rickson is making his television debut. Wanting to look good, he's pulled his favorite shirt out of mothballs. Too bad the moths got to it first.
It was a pretty sexy outfit.
All right, Todd Rickson, act number 6.
Todd takes the stage, ready to become a star. He begins with a moonwalk. Good choice, never seen that before. Then he follows it with a nice spin move, trying to dry off his flop sweat into the mandatory bump and grind. Followed by some more spins, then some classic disco steps. He's right up to date here. Todd's really winning him over. Couple of big kicks. The pants are holding up just fine. And now for his big finish. Todd kicks himself in the head. The stunned dancer tries to continue, but these moves aren't part of the act. Much to Todd's and the audience's relief, the host stops the show.
Oh, I think he's done a hamstring there. You all right? Never mind, mate. Well, I think we'll just take a commercial break, I think, and we'll be back after that break and we'll explain what's happening.
When the show returns, the judges confer and decide that Todd's chances of winning are 1 in 50. But that was before his recent head injury. After years of rehabilitation, Todd makes a full recovery.
And then
See? Good as new.
Coming up next, get ready for the most outrageous moment ever caught on tape. When totally outrageous behavior continues.
At a zoo in Mexico, a daydreaming worker sweeps out the elephant pen. But he ignores the first rule of elephant care. Watch your back. Or at least watch the elephant's back. Now he's packed into a pachyderm. Eventually, the elephant squeezes him out. Thanks to this butthead's stupid behavior, it's a day he'll never forget.